Random question. Do you think, obviously this is speculation, do you think Final Shape will come out in spring or fall of 24?
That's a really good question.
I assume they haven't said anything about it, but I would probably more likely bet and kind of hope, I would kind of rather if they pushed it to fall. Obviously now it always used to be fall up until... Which was the first expansion? Was it?
It was. It used to always be September, and then Beyond Light pushed it to
Beyond Light was the
November,
first.
And then after that, Witch Queen got pushed into spring.
It was basically. Witch Queen the first spring expansion. Yes,
yes, it was.
Yeah, because Beyond Light got pushed a little bit. But yeah, it was always September, and then Beyond Light pushed a little bit, and then Witch Queen they pushed it all the way to spring, which is. It feels a bit weird, but kind of, I guess maybe players like us, we're used to September as like Destiny time. And in the whole gaming world, in the whole marketing, like Q4 is always the main release time of when you want to have new stuff out. It's the holiday season. It's the best time. It is a bit weird having the big new expansion come out in like February. I kind of would prefer it if it came out in fall. And also it would mean they have more time. You know, I definitely would rather... This is the final shape, so this is the big grand finale, so I'd definitely rather it be as polished and perfect as it can be, because it would seem almost a little bit soon if Final Shape came out in a year from now, but I'm not sure. I assume they haven't said anything so far or hinted, but I
think it is probably going to end up being spring, and that's purely because they want to make sure they have a consistent seasonal model going forward. It's really clear that Lightfall is... the first of maybe 6 parts to a plan of how the story goes forward. The second part being Season of Defiance, third being Season of the Deep. And then moving forward, you've got the 2 other seasons that will come afterwards that will inevitably link into the final shape and whatever comes along with it. They have a very clear trajectory of where the story is going and the path they're taking. And I don't think they're willing to delay that. So I do think it will be spring because, let's be brutally honest. I think that the big downside of the seasonal story ends up being the times when there isn't any story going on. Mm-hmm. If you're able to continuously keep the ball rolling, that's another thing. But yeah, if you're able to continuously keep the ball rolling, especially when you've got a story arc as impactful and strong as this, that's only going to make it feel better. And so unless they're willing to create another 2 seasons, I don't think that there's going to be I don't think there's going to be a slowing down point. I think that we're in this for the long haul, and ultimately that's going to lead us to this point where we get Final Shape, and it is probably going to be a Q1 2024 expansion.
Yeah, they would have to either add a season or do another 6-month season that we got in. What was it? Season of the Lost, I want to say, or
Season of the Lost and Season of Arrivals. The 2, maybe the big ones.
The big 6-month season. Yeah, that was definitely a bit of a slow period, but. It is what it is. Do you think Bungie have revealed enough before Lightfall, or do you think it's... Cause I've seen some talk about they're not showing off enough, I guess, because what we're used to seeing, normally they do announce quite a lot, and they are pretty quiet, especially with Lightfall. They revealed a little bit to begin with, and there's a couple Strand trailers here and there, but they are pretty quiet for the most part, and I guess the main thing is that some people would get concerned that maybe they're kind of trying to hide that it isn't finished or it isn't going to be good, but it can mean the opposite. It can mean they're trying to hide a lot of good content. Like with Forsaken, they were very, very secretive, and that ended up being just a mountain of content. Like the amount of content in Forsaken, that's why it's heralded as one of the best expansions. They really kept very quiet about how much there actually was in that, and then on the day of release, it's like, wow, there's a lot here. There's 2 zones and all this content. So do you think more, less, or just right? I feel like it's kind of a good state. I like less is more. I like to just on the day. I don't like hearing too much announcements and trailers. I like to just let me know when I can play the thing. Like the days of getting excited for trailers and all the announcements and reveals, they're a bit overplayed, and it's all kind of for, it's marketing, it's hype. I understand it, but I prefer just let me know when it's out and let me know when I can play the thing. I don't like all the kind of the build up as much these days. What do you think?
So I think that there is a direct comparison of sorts that we can take a look at, and that comparison is, I say, let's talk 2 comparisons really. Beyond Light, right? When we were getting Stasis, they put Stasis front and center. That was not the secret of the expansion. There was no secret. They were putting everything they had out there, and they let everybody know well in advance the direction in which you were going. take a look and compare that to Shadowkeep, where we went to the playtest events that we had at Bungie. And, we brought footage home from that, and we got to play that first story mission, and we saw what happened. And there was a very explicit point at which everybody sat there and saw the pyramid ship. And there is no marketing of that thing, The name Shadowkeep is a massive dodge. It is a massive diversion from what's actually happening, which is, we found a pyramid ship and we need to figure out what's going on with that bad boy. That's the whole point of Shadowkeep. So I think Lightfall is in the middle. The name tells you exactly what's going to happen, which is we are going to fail in some regard. We will experience a traumatic and massive defeat. But I feel as though they're not showing as much of that, because showing more of it than is necessary is going to really cause a lot of the impact to be worn off. I can't speak as far as how much content there's going to be, because no one can truly know. But as far as the narrative side of it is concerned, I think that they are giving us as much as they feel is appropriate, considering that we all, I think, vaguely know which direction the apocalypse is going to go. And it's really all about making sure that it still leaves us shocked. It's still about showing us that defeat in a way that is palpable and it makes an impact,
Yeah, I always think less is more. I think especially these days, it's becoming more of a trend. Like you see it with a lot of like Netflix and just kind of YouTube content is, and kind of the way that entertainment has evolved. People want things now, and you could definitely argue there's some negatives to that about the short attention span and the kind of the microwave rapid content, and there's kind of a shift away from quality like Hollywood movies that would put a lot of time and budget into them and tell a really slow, like maybe a 3-hour narrative. Now, like a lot of people aren't really able to sit through like a 3-hour movie, because they just, they're used to a TikTok 10-second video, and then it's next, it's scroll, it's the algorithm suggesting you the next video before you even finish watching one. So, but generally speaking, a lot of media these days, it's just they drop it and they don't, and even music as well, albums, they just kind of drop it, and there's less of a build up, less of a rollout promotional period, and it's just like it's out now. Because I think a lot of companies are realizing that unless it's really anticipated, too much hype and promotion can kind of be a bad thing. It's much more satisfying from a consumer level if you just give them the thing now instead of having to have them wait. And obviously YouTube content is like that as well. We don't like do trailers or announcements for our videos. You just drop them when you do. And most of the time, it's just like there's so much content coming out. There's less build up. So I think the kind of the games industry is following that. And you see a lot of games that just kind of come out relatively quickly, as opposed to like back in the day, you'd have games that would be announced like 2-3 years before they're even released. And I think you definitely see a lot less of that these days. And I think Destiny is kind of following that suit.
Yeah, I think I agree.